Good morning, everybody. It's part 5 of Joe's a Rise player. Excuse me while I take a sip of tea. I'm still a little congested, still a little froggy, still a little foggy. So that's why, unfortunately, it's been so long on this video. I was actually doing it yesterday, and then something happened. I had to stop doing it, and I never got back to it. But we're here. I've got about 40 minutes or so before work. This is going to be probably the shortest episode of this particular series. Then I'll also pre-record my who would win, and we'll be good to go. So last time on the Yu-Gi-Oh! What if Joey was a Red Eyes player? We pretty much had the Battle City arc. The semifinals happened, not semifinals, the quarterfinals, the blimp fights, and a couple big things changed. One, Joey beat Odion straight out. There was no issue with Odion playing the false Wing of Dragon or Rod. Joey even acquired it. However, after a little bit, it was revealed that what was it? They call himself Namu. Was that his fake name? Namu was the real Merrick, and Namu beat Mai. Now, whether or not Namu made that a shadow game, or sorry, I should just call him Merrick now. Merrick made that a shadow game. I don't know if he made it a shadow game. We know Bakura didn't make it a shadow game. Yami Merrick definitely made it a shadow game. But at the same time, I couldn't tell you if this Merrick. You know what? I think this Merrick would have made it a shadow game once it got found out. Basically, once it got found out that he had once it got found out he had the Winged Dragon of Ra. I think that's when the jig is up and he does make it a shadow game. Which does mean that Mai actually still would be trapped in the Shadow Realm by the end of this fight. Now Odion is there, so that means Yami Merrick is not quite coming out. Although the stress of the situation is wearing at Merrick to a certain degree, as we saw even during his fight with Joey, Odion's fight with Joey. So when the virtual world arc comes up, a very different thing happens here. Odion is among the crew who gets Odion, and there he is among the crew who gets caught and sent into the virtual world. This, because he's unconscious, allows the activation, the awakening of Yami, or reawakening of Yami Merrick into the fold. So, while in the virtual world arc, the question is, does Odion get a duel? Well, a lot of people kind of said, yeah, do that. And I did do that, or at least I attempted to do that. The immediate problem was, the deck list I found. I believe, by the way, I believe it's a Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro deck list a lot of time for those deck lists. So that's where I was going for his deck list. It was a little out of date. Not out of date. It's a little too up to date with modern rulings. But more importantly, who is he going to duel? Because all the duels were pretty much taken at that point, and taken pretty well. We had Gansley, I believe, duel Yugi. You had Johnson duel Joey. You had Lecter. You had Lecter duel Mr. Cobb. And, oh god, the one who stole Tristan's body, I never remember his name. The robotic guy who dueled 3-on-1 and almost won. Then there's Crump who dueled Taya. So I basically had to swap one of these out. And my decision for a kind of clever little thing is that Odion has to duel Crump. The reason for this is I could see that Odion somehow got paired up with Taya, who, and he helps fight off like the Hitatsumi Giants, everything like that. And so Odion helps rescue her, along with the Penguins. They follow the Penguins. And this gives Taya a chance to actually kind of grill Odion and everything he's done. And Odion is like, I do not need to justify myself to you. It's like, and Change is like, yeah, you do. You're not Merrick, but you help Merrick? He's a monster. My purpose is to serve Master Merrick, no matter what the task may be, no matter how right or wrong it may be. So you do know what he's doing is wrong. And Odion kind of just like, of course I know what he's doing is wrong, but I swore an oath. And he basically just goes, and he talks about how a little bit about his past until they meet the Penguins. Ah, there we are. Uh, Taya Gardner. Taya Gardner. And excuse me. There we go. Got a little of that out. Ugh. So he's just like, Taya Gardner. Ah, and you brought a friend. Wonderful. Numbers. That's the thing. Numbers. And so he's like, we have to duel. Is it a duel? And so he's challenging Taya to a duel. But it's only then that Odion starts. It's like, yeah, it's like, why don't you duel someone who would actually give you a little bit of a challenge? Sorry, pretty boy, but I don't have the numbers on you. And if I wanted a harder duel, I wouldn't be trying to steal. And if I'm trying to steal buys, the easier is the better. Perhaps, but do you really want to be walking around the rest of your life in a young woman's body? And he tries basically to play the sexist cards. Like, excuse me? And Odion gives her a look like, shut up. And it's like after I might give you a better challenge, but if you're not confident in your dueling skills, I suppose you could fight her. How dare you? All right, then you're on, buddy. Odion, was it? All right, let's duel. You will pick our cards from the virtual deck list virtual library here. And so the duel begins. Now I'm basically going to do a little bit at the beginning, but basically just bring out the highlights of the duel. Odion runs a very trap-heavy deck. The deck list I found did actually have a solid amount of creatures, though. Although half of them were the Winged Dragon of Ra, and he doesn't have those in here. Not half of them, but like 3 of them were like the Winged Dragon of Ra forms, but he does not have those in here. And so the deal begins like, I'll draw, and I'm not even going to go over cards like in the hand. I'm just going to summarize. I'll set 2 cards face down. Down. I'll play a monster in defense mode, and I'll end my turn. Now, you might be saying, well, Odion never played monsters, but he did have monsters. We know, for instance, he had a Mystical Beast Circuit. So that is a monster he had in his deck. It's very likely he did have other monsters in his deck as well. I'll play my Giant Red Sea Snake, and my Deckmaster's ability, it'll gain 200 attack points. Next, I'll play Cold Wave. This prevents us from setting or activating any magic cards until my next turn. And Odion's like, ugh. The Red Sea Snake attacks. Odion, it's revealed Odion had his Cat of Ill Omen, which basically allows him to put a trap card from his deck onto the battlefield. A trap card from his deck on top of his deck. And so he puts puts a trap on the bottom of his top of his library, and then the turn is ended. Odion draws. He basically kind of has to end his turn here, although initially there was another monster in the hand when I did it randomized. So why not just say he sets a monster face down and ends his turn? Now the effects of the Cold Wave end. He think words here. Crump plays, I will use Nightmare Penguin and Penguin Sword, which basically pumped it all the way up to pumped it all the way up to 2,200. He attacks, and Odion activates one of his face down cards, which would be Eye of Ujat, which means he basically attacks the Giant Red Sea Snake with Nightmare Penguin. Now, it's Odion's turn. He would draw. And this is where I'm basically now going to start summarizing it, pretty much. See, I think words. Crump had this is where Crump set 2 cards face down. Mirror Wall and Divine Snow, which when a spell is destroyed, Divine Snow would wipe all the spells off the battlefield. Odion doesn't have that effect, but what he does have is he most likely has counter traps, 4 traps, like 7 Tools of the Bandit. And I'm pretty sure he probably has some spell destruction as well, but when I did the randomizer, that didn't pop up. So Odion sets a bunch of cards down. and he ends his turn. So now you would basically just go through the motions of, all right, now it's like, attack, Red Sea Snake, and he activates another trap which destroys it. He also activates all of his embodiments of Apophis. And Gansley, unfortunately, Penguin Torpedo hits him directly, but it does nothing. Odion draws, activates his Temple of the Kings. He swings in, but activates the Mirror Wall he has face down, which cuts all the embodiment of Apophis in half. That's still 2,400 in damage, which means Crump can't manage past that point. So he's got to, for Mirror Wall, so he's got to destroy Mirror Wall. And yeah, at this point, Crump would be on the very heavily losing side. Even if he played the Glacial Wall, eventually Odion will just play Mystical Beast of Circuit, and he will win the day. So Odion wins, Crump is defeated. All's well that ends well. And eventually they meet up. Odion kind of confesses like what's going on with Merrick. He also gets turned to stone during the fight with Noah. But there's not much else that would change, because the reason this is a summarized video is because Joey's cards in his deck are kind of one of a kind right now, which means they would not be in the system registry, the database for the virtual world. So ultimately, the fight would be over. Ultimately, Joey would have to play more or less a deck that he ran in the original series. Maybe with some slight variations, more dragons, but that's about it. Ultimately, they would get out of Dodge, wake back up in the real world, only now Odion finds that the Yami Merrick is in control. And it's like, Lord Massey, be gone, monster, be gone, worms, go! And using his powers, he kind of just knocks Odion out, who now kind of plays chill the whole time. And Ishi's looking after him. And now you get to the semifinal matches. And just for the sake of easy numbers, or easily doing it, we are going to have just the same matches. Joey versus Merrick, and Kaiba versus Yugi. Now, join us on Thursday Thanksgiving, when we actually do an actual duel between Merrick and Joey here. But until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.